Hey everybody.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Mike.
I'm Jenny.
And this is And the Nominees Were, where we are watching every movie ever nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards.
Indeed.
Yeah, and
then sometimes we record a podcast about it.
Yeah, every once in a while. We're back from our tour of China and the Near East. Yeah, we've been gone for a while.
That's true. That was only semi-intentional. We had to take 1 week off.
Yeah, stuff came up.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, things happen. Life gets in the way.
Exactly.
But we're back.
Yep.
We watched this movie before we took this hiatus.
That's true.
We watched this movie like the day after we recorded Wings or something like that.
I was so excited too. I was like, "Yes, Cabaret, get hype!"
Yeah.
And this episode is about Cabaret.
Yes. This is the start of our new series, 1972.
Yep.
Beginning with Cabaret.
Yep. We watched it a month ago, and I was so excited. Except the problem is, it was a month ago.
Yeah.
And now at least I remember it a little bit better than I did, the last time I saw it, which was when I was probably 20.
Yeah.
So
we've done this before. We recorded we recorded a whole new Call Me by Your Name episode.
That's true.
3 months after we watched the movie, just on our memories.
That's true. We did remember that movie vividly, as it turned out. But
this one, I have to admit, I enjoyed this movie quite a bit, but it has basically faded from my memory almost entirely.
I remember thinking that even if we didn't get around to recording it right away, that I was like, I won't have that much trouble remembering Cabaret because I saw the stage show Cabaret 5 times.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, the plots of the movie and the musical, at least the revival version, which I saw, not even the most recent revival. It was the 1990s, early 2000s revival.
Well, I thought Cabaret was just like running. I also get it confused with Chicago. Yeah. Because they both were revived like around the same time, right?
Exactly.
And they're both very Fosse.
Yep. And Chicago basically, I think, ran consecutively. I don't know if they ever broke off, but Cabaret ran for a few years and then just came back a couple of years ago. It was like an anniversary of that revival, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so Cabaret, though.
Yeah. So.
Well, okay. I can't remember when we last talked. Did we talk about why we? Oh no. Well, it's pretty straightforward why we chose this year. It's because it's the one in the middle.
Well, we did the 90th, and then we did the first, and then so I thought of doing the one in the middle, but because 90 is a round number, there isn't one in the middle. So we could have done the 45th or the 46th, and I went with the 45th because
45 is half of 90, and so it sounds cleaner.
It does, and also this was the year that The Godfather won, and The Godfather, it's the seminal motion picture, The Godfather. It's a landmark in cinema history now.
Yeah. Apparently. Yep.
But we're not talking about The Godfather.
We're not talking about The Godfather.
We'll have plenty of time for you to shit on everybody's fond memories of this pinnacle achievement of classical Hollywood filmmaking,
right?
In all due time.
Exactly. Even though this is more the thing that we mention at the end of the episode, usually, I do want to immediately bring in that factoid that Cabaret is the movie that won the most Oscars without winning Best Picture.
Yeah. This movie won, I think it was 8.
Something like that.
Yeah. This is a thing that we'll get, right specifically later on in the episode.
Right.
This was an interesting time, I think, in the movies and the Oscars. This is 1972. We're just like a couple years removed from, the 1960s, which were a real transitional time for the movie industry in general. This was when like all the studios were going bankrupt and were getting bought up by conglomerates and things like that. And if you remember, you look at the nominees, the Oscar nominees for every year of the 1960s, it's like there's at least one like big bloated musical that no one was going to see. These movies did not make that much money, but like they spent so much money on them that they had to get nominated for all these Oscars.
Right, so that they would feel like it was worth it.
Yeah.
They were trying to, I guess, very insularly recognize those achievements.
Yeah. And very much like along the decade lines, things shifted somewhat dramatically. I mean, there's still the weird bloated movies in the 70s, but they tend to be different kinds of movies, like disaster movies.
Right.
We're gonna watch a couple of weird long disaster movies starring warmed over movie stars from the 50s.
Right.
But I think Cabaret is interesting in that because, like, just 5 years before this, they were nominating Dr. Dolittle for Best Picture. And this is a musical. It's in a long tradition of movie musicals, but it's very much a new Hollywood version of a musical.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Apparently, well, there are a couple of things. One is that, this Cabaret is based on... It's based on the stage show, but then that was based on
play, it's originally
Chris Ishward's book of short stories.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, is that what you were going to say?
Well, I was going to do it in reverse order, so it made more sense, but yeah. Basically.
But what I think was interesting was, this movie and I guess I Am a Camera, which was the movie of the play, were both like rated X. Just like,
well, I don't think. No, I think Cabaret was.
I think it got re-rated, but
I don't think that's true.
I think. Well, I don't know if it's true. I just know that I read it. But that was what I read. Was it got re-rated?
It was rated X in the UK.
Oh, okay.
It was later re-rated as 15.
Okay.
Which is very different from X.
But that's the thing. Is like it's not like. Are there even boobs in this movie? I don't remember
I don't think so.
And like it's just the subject matter. It's all about drinking and sex and abortion and stuff. So
this
gays.
This is very different subject matter than a lot of big musicals of the time, movie or stage. Really, I feel like this was. I don't know too much about the history of Broadway theater, but this seems like the first of its kind in engaging with more adult subject matter. I mean, I can't speak to that without getting yelled at by everybody that I spent my entire 20s hanging out with. Yeah. But, like, before this would have been, like, Hair. Before the movie of Cabaret was this musical.
That's true.
Like Cabaret the musical
is older, yeah.
Yeah, it was from like the early 60s.
But so I don't know the order in which all these things happen.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really matter because this is the movie.
We're talking about the
Cabaret.
movie.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which is by all accounts quite different from the musical Cabaret, even though they share they share one key person in Bob Fosse, who directed the film, and I think he directed the original stage production. He was definitely the choreographer.
Yeah. And apparently they didn't want him to direct this movie, but like when they were making it, but
I think when Bob Fosse had directed, so Bob Fosse started out as a dancer as like a teenager in the like 40s and 50s. Quickly became a choreographer and started directing shows, I think, in the 60s. And he made his first film in 1968 or 9 with Sweet Charity.
Right.
Which I haven't seen, but by all accounts, it feels much more like a standard Hollywood musical of the time. And I think the producers of this movie didn't want a standard Hollywood musical of the time, and so they that's what they were expecting of Bob Fosse because he'd only made one other movie. And of course, looking at his career now, it's clear that he was never interested in doing that.
Right. But apparently he got hired for the way that he would direct the musical numbers in this movie, essentially. And that's one of the things that makes the movie different from the stage show is that the movie has only diegetic music in it.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah, and whereas, the musical has a lot of those numbers at the cabaret on the stage and stuff like that are, the social commentary numbers and stuff like that. But it also has a lot of regular songs that people just sing in rooms to express their feelings. And the movie doesn't have any of them. They're all cut out.
Yeah, I find that really interesting. One of the things that I read or saw about this, suggested that when they were making the original stage musical, that songwriters and producers kind of wanted to get away from the use of like these numbers where people sing how they feel and all that stuff. They wanted to sort of like get away from the standard way of making musicals and stuff, and that they were sort of included as sort of a concession to how theater seemed to need it to be at the time.
That's fair.
I don't know if that's true.
It's possible. There's most of the songs that I remember from the show that are sung outside of the club are by the characters in the B plot who are not in the movie.
So like both versions, they have like a B plot, like about like a B plot romance, but
right.
The movie subs in two other characters from Christopher Isherwood's book.
Exactly. Yeah. In the stage play, it's I forgot her name, but I think it's Fräulein Schneider or something like that. She's the lady who runs the boarding house. She has a romance with like a Jewish grocer and stuff like that, and that whole subplot is basically subbed out for the Fritz and Natalia one that's in the movie. So they have like similar themes, even though the actual what's happening in them is different. But they have songs, furthering their romance and their plot and stuff like that. But they're never in the club. They are not in the Kit Kat Club ever in the show. So they would have no opportunity to sing songs that would advance their plot if they didn't do them just in the regular standard musical way.
And I'm pretty sure some of those songs that were cut out of the movie appear as like records that the characters listen to.
Yeah, which I didn't even pick up on because honestly, those songs are not the most memorable ones in the show.
Yeah, fair.
So, which helps.
Yeah.
Like, they're nice. They're nice songs, Brent. But yeah, they're not the most memorable ones. The ones that rattle around in my head are the ones that they sing in the club anyway. So, and some of those got put into the show after being in the movie. Like, Money was not in the original version of the play.
Yeah, apparently. I remember hearing that.
Even though I don't know this because I have no idea growing up as not growing up as a theater nerd, but growing up into a theater nerd in high school. I have no idea what the cultural conception of the musical Cabaret is.
I mean, I have even less than you. I did musicals in high school. I was in all of them. I had big roles because I'm very good. But I never really cared. I liked acting, and that was the only way I could act, was to be in musicals on stage. But I don't really like musicals or stage acting.
So you're really out of luck there, huh?
Yeah, I mean, being in stage musicals is what is how I learned that I don't really care for stage acting.
That's fair.
I like acting in movies. They're very different.
Having very small amounts of experience with either. Because I did drama. I did a little bit of stage, very little because they didn't run the drama club for all 4 years that I was in high school. But I liked it. I liked being on stage and stuff. But just recently, I was in a movie for the first time.
Was I. Yeah. Well, I wasn't for the first time. But.
Yeah, right. You have been in movies before. Yeah. But I was in a movie for the first time, and the whole time I was like, where do I put my eyes? And you don't have to worry about that when you're on a stage.
Yeah.
You look at the other people on the stage because everybody else is in the crowd and they can't see what you're looking at anyway, and it doesn't matter.
Well, the thing that I always thought was weird about stage acting. Well, I remember once in my senior year, had the role of Bud Frump in How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. It's sort of the villainish role, except he's sort of ineffective in everything that he does. But he hates the main character, and that's the main thing. And I was doing it, and I thought I was acting, pretty well. I was saying the lines with feeling. I thought I was being the character, and like one of the directors took me aside and was like, "You're not like doing anything." And
you learned you had to be bigger because you were on stage.
I mean, I had been bigger, but like this was the first time I had like a whole part where I was like trying to feel stuff. Like the year before, I was Daddy Warbucks and Annie, and like that's a bigger part, but like you don't really have to act like much. You're just sort of like loud and angry sometimes, and that's about it.
Okay,
it's not a very technical role. But yeah, like I was acting real hard, but like I wasn't acting to the back of the room, and I don't like doing that. I find it strange.
That's fair.
Because you don't act like a human being,
right?
Whereas I grew up watching movies and not plays, and in movies people tend to generally act like human beings.
That's true.
So it's
for the most part.
Yeah. So it was very alien to me. This is quite the digression.
That's okay. I don't know. Well, I guess what my original point was just to the effect of Bob Fosse got this job for directing the musical numbers in Cabaret, and they look pretty good.
Yeah. But I guess, trying to launch off this digression since I made it and all.
Sure.
I like this movie because it doesn't feel like a musical. I mean, like by a lot of people's definitions of what is and is not a musical, this is not a musical.
Yeah,
even though there are like 7 or 8 songs in it.
You said that to me right after we were done watching it, and I was so angry. And I was like, "Well, you're right, but I hate you."
So often, like it's. I feel like it's almost become like a little mini meme.
Yeah.
Like what is and isn't a musical. As you have to have songs where people sing how they feel, and no one does that in this movie.
No, well,
there are songs
they do.
There are songs that relate to the emotions of the characters, but they're not sung by those characters.
That's true.
And they're oblique. It's not even like the Master of Ceremonies is singing these songs like explicitly about what's going on in the story, which I a little bit thought was going to be. But the subject matter of the songs
true, but they're not literal.
Like, yeah.
It's sort of like they wrote, even though these are not pop songs, but not in the what most people would consider pop songs. I mean, obviously they're literally pop songs because almost all songs are literally pop songs. But anyway, that's just my technical opinion as somebody with no training. My point is, it's like somebody wrote pop songs about, like, shit they felt, but was like, oh, but don't mention anything about what actually happened to me in it, Two Ladies is a good example, like, there's no literal plot in this movie where there's 2 ladies and he's the only man here. But it's still talking about, the relationship between Max and Sally and Brian? What is his name in the movie? I always call him Cliff. His name is Cliff in the musical.
the Michael York?
Yeah.
What is his name? I don't know. I don't remember.
I think it's Brian.
Yeah, sure, probably. Yeah, Brian Roberts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That song is, I think, probably the most literal out of any of the songs. More often they're just sort of like about like the mood of whatever's happening in the show at the time. Whereas that one's explicitly about it's like a 3-way relationship. That's
true. Well, but right before that comes Money. Mm-hmm. And which they sing Money as soon as Max comes into the movie. So it's
that's like not it's not a plot thing.
That's true. What I was gonna say was that I feel like the closest that the movie comes to one of these scenes where a character just sings their feelings is there's the scene where Sally sings Maybe This Time.
Yeah.
After she and Brian get together. And Maybe This Time is like just a nice bittersweet ballad about how she sucks at relationships and like maybe this time I'll win.
And that's the one that wasn't written for this show.
Right. It was not written for
that
the
was
show.
Just a Candor and Ebb like trunk song that like they had to like show off their prowess, and Liza Minnelli just liked it a lot and she wanted to sing it in the movie.
Yeah. And in the movie, and it fits the character, and in the movie she sings it at the club but to an empty room. Mm-hmm. So it's not part of the show. She's not like performing it.
I mean, I just thought that was like she's performing it like at the end of the night when most people have gone home. But
guess
there's
that's
still a
possible.
Show.
Yeah, there is somebody who's like sweeping.
There's like 2 or 3 people there.
And I guess there were a couple. I didn't see anybody in the crowd. I guess that makes sense if it's the end of the night and there are a couple of people just hanging out. I thought it was the middle of the day, like they hadn't opened yet for the night. You know,
I don't know. It's ambiguous, I suppose.
Yeah.
I feel like we should like just get into the vague plot of this movie since we've been talking about it for a while.
Yeah. So this movie is about Brian, who's not Cliff, and he is Michael York, and he's the Chris Isherwood stand-in, basically.
Yeah, he is like a British, like upper class guy, or like a middle class guy. Is like an Oxford graduate or whatever, and he comes to Germany for no real reason, I think.
Just to hang out.
Yeah, and he gets a job as a...
he's going to teach English to people, to pay his rent.
Mm-hmm. And immediately in this, when he goes to like the first boarding house he finds in the papers, he meets Sally Bowles, a brash American.
Yep. She wants to be a movie star.
Yeah, a real manic pixie dream girl kind of.
That's true. Yeah, she's what you would call a force of nature.
Yeah.
Yep. She's a highly delusional character, is the thing. She wants to be famous. She wants to be rich. Her dad is apparently a diplomat or something like that.
But it's possible that he isn't.
I think that it is possible, but I get the impression that it's more like he is, but she talks about like, oh, well, we have this great relationship and this and that, and really he doesn't care about her at all, and that's the real nugget at the heart of the character, at least as built in the movie, because a lot of this is the thing, is Sally in particular, a lot of her specifics are different in the movie than they are in the show.
Yeah, I know in the stage show, the nationalities are reversed. Usually it's Sally that's British and Brian, or whoever his name is,
is American,
Mm-hmm. But in actual fact, Christopher Isherwood was British. Mm-hmm. I don't know if the real Sally Bowles, I think she might have been British.
I think she was. Yeah. I think she was British, yeah. Because I read about the girl that the character was like sort of based on, and how she got mad because people thought that this was like her, and it was very much not her. She was like an anarchist, basically. And stuff.
It's funny. I remember reading that like Isherwood, he like went around like getting people's like permission, even though he changed all the names and stuff like that. He still wanted to like make sure it was okay with all of his friends that he wrote about them.
Yep.
And the real Sally is not all that much like this. She was just sort of an inspiration for the character.
Yeah, she was apparently a lady who did sing in a club and had wild romantic entanglements, and that's about as deep as the similarity went. Yeah. Yeah. But, she was like a political activist and stuff. I said an anarchist. I don't think I don't think that was true. But yeah, she was like an activist and stuff. And
the original stories, I haven't read them, but I don't know if it's like a book of short stories or if it's like almost more like novellas or something like that. But they're usually all collected in this one volume, and like the name of the previous film that this was made out of these stories, I Am a Camera, I think it comes from a line in the book, and the main character just sort of like is telling all of these stories around him where he isn't really involved directly in anything. Like there's no romance between him and Sally in the book, for one thing, because Christopher Isherwood is gay.
Is gay, yeah.
But like for the musical, and then like sort of even more for the movie, they had to construct a narrative from these like disparate elements.
Right.
They like invented this romance for the movie, right?
No, it's in the musical.
Yeah, that's right. Because in the musical, there's no reference to his homosexuality at all. And as a sort of weird compromise in the movie, they make him bi.
Right. And I think he's also bi in the Broadway revival.
Okay.
Because he does also hook up with Sally, but there is, like, you know, there's a scene of him, like, making out with one of the Kit Kat boys and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it's just, like, a quick thing. It's because it's not actually... his sexuality is not relevant to the plot in the musical in the same way.
Yeah.
So.
It's an interesting thing where I think the producers of the film wanted to be more true to the source material and have Brian be gay, but they just couldn't get away with it with like standards at the time.
Right.
Like it would get like an automatic X or something in America. So they sort of compromised and made his character bi, but I think that's like more interesting and more daring. And,
I do too.
It's weird.
I think it also makes the plot more interesting because like, because, you know, Sally and Brian... they flirt and they're gonna get together, and then he's like, "No, I'm gay," and she's like, "Oh, I'll stop flirting with you," but like he's not actually gay, and then they both meet Max, who's like,
well, before that they do have like a love affair.
Right?
They do get together.
No, they do, yeah. But
and then Sally has like a chance meeting with Max who's
rich,
an eccentric millionaire.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yep. And they like both get involved with him, but like the way that the movie plays it almost is like Sally is kind of throwing Brian off for Max because she thinks he's gonna get her into movies because he's famous, or like even if he doesn't, she'll still be able to travel the world in style and have a good time, which is all she really wants is to have a good time.
And Brian like, is all jealous,
right.
But then they sort of, you don't even see it in the movie, and unfortunately, but they do develop this sort of parallel affair.
Yep. Yeah, and that's what I think is interesting, is because like you don't see their affair in the movie, which I'm sure is just because of like, you know, standards and practices or whatever at the time. But
which is not a thing in movies. Standards and practices, but you know what
is
the TV.
No, I know, but you know what I mean.
No, I know. I said the same sort of thing.
But he tells Sally about it after Max has fucked off to Africa or wherever it is that he went. That he tells Sally that he was also sleeping with Max.
Yeah.
And like it's just funny because like when you go through it and you watch the movie knowing this, you're like, oh yeah, they have this tension too, or whatever. But if you watch the movie not knowing this, it kind of comes out of nowhere because it seems like he was just jealous that Sally was macking on this dude.
Well, there is the one great moment where they all are at Max's big mansion and they're just like hanging around getting super drunk off of champagne and dancing to records. And then they all at one point they all are dancing together.
Yep.
And there's a great close-up of just the three of their heads as they're like turning around, and it seems like they're all just gonna start making out,
right.
But then they don't.
Yeah.
So it doesn't come out of nowhere.
No, that's true.
But I think it's interesting because like bi characters are far less common in media.
I agree.
And I think it's interesting that that was the compromise. Was to make the character like a statistically even less likely sexuality.
Yeah, well,
that some people find even more uncomfortable,
right?
And comforting.
Yeah, but then it's that there's not to bring it all to internalized biphobia, but it's like the way of them all looking at them going, well, they're almost straight.
Yep.
Like, yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Thanks. Yeah. So. I don't know where to go from here. But so then there's also, all this is new. Oh, yeah, we were describing the plot.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will say that, we got on this tangent about Brian and Sally and Max because I think it's interesting that this is a thing that was in the movie and not in any other version of this.
Right, but it takes up the whole middle of the movie.
Well, I was going to say that, like, without this, like, why would I be watching this movie? There's no story in this movie other than that.
Yeah, it's true.
And like I've definitely watched plenty of movies that are like like little vignettes between lots of different characters, but there's not enough characters in here.
Right.
Otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah, most of them are missing.
So if there's no love triangle between Brian and Sally and Max,
then what's the plot of the movie? Yeah.
Then you just have this other German guy trying to woo this department store magnate, his daughter.
Yeah.
That's about it. That's everything that happens. And then there's like just 8 songs by the Master of Ceremonies.
Yeah, and also Nazis are there.
Yes.
Yeah. Because that's the thing is like, all of this is supposed to be happening, while the Nazis are coming to power.
Yeah, very early days. Like this is something that I had to look up to make more clear. Is that this is even before like Hitler was in the picture at all?
Oh, okay.
I think in the timeline, if there is like a specific one, like Hitler is elected like leader of the Nazi party just like a couple months or something after this movie ends.
Okay. But they're still coming up and making things shitty for everybody.
Yeah, and most of the movie, they're just sort of this background force that becomes like more and more foreground as the movie goes on.
Right.
The beginning, they just seem sort of like thugs. They just seem like a gang of like skinheads, basically.
Yep.
Beating people up, and then they just gradually start taking up more and more of the screen real estate.
Yep. And to the point then where that's the last scene in the movie is, is the Master of Ceremonies is, sings everybody out, and then it pans like to the side to like the mirror, but the mirror is reflecting the crowd. And then at the beginning of the movie, they were trying to kick out the one Nazi that was in the club, and then they all came back and beat up the the owner or whoever it was that did it. And then when they pan to this mirror, it's all just a ton of Nazis in the crowd. Because that's kind of what the movie is about aside from the actual human plot between characters, is about how like these characters just were living their lives and like about hedonism and stuff like that, and their personal dramas, and they're like, oh well, you can't take these guys seriously because they're nut jobs, but then they become more and more prominent and more accepted.
Yeah.
And hoo boy, topical.
Yeah.
Everything old is new again. The end of the 90s revival is even bleaker.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. It's, well, first of all, just the overall tone of the 90s revival is bleaker. I remember saying at one point that it was the show that I'd seen the most times and enjoyed the least. But yeah, like, to the point where, like, the song Cabaret is depressing in that revival.
Okay.
Whereas in the movie it comes across as, like, Sally is, like, defiantly being like, fuck you guys, I'm gonna live my life, and it is that she's a bit delusional about it, but that comes across in both versions, but like, in the stage show, it seemed like she might just roll off stage and, like, just overdose and die immediately, because that's, like, the way her life is going. But the MC shows up to outro everybody. He turns to signal the band, and like half the band is missing, and the music is all playing all helter skelter, and then he sings the end of the song sadly, and then is wearing a concentration camp uniform with a pink triangle on it.
Then.
And they roll the drums and flash the strobe lights like he's just been killed by like a firing squad. So, yep.
Huh.
Yeah. It was a real fun show, Cabaret.
Interesting.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All I ever knew about the revival of Cabaret, and really subsequently about Cabaret in general, was just I would see all the ads where everybody was like painted white and just wearing like garter belts and nothing else.
Yeah. 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 it's about right. Yeah. The 90s cabaret aesthetic is trashy, but like not trashy, more like seedy.
Yeah. That was the one. Didn't Sam Mendes do the new Cabaret? Yeah,
that's what basically got him his blank check, for lack of a better term, into movies. Yeah, essentially.
I think it's interesting. I feel like there is a stereotype, and I think it's a wrong one, that like theater directors who transition in like making films tend to make very stagey or uninteresting looking films, but you have people like Bob Fosse and Sam Mendes and Mike Nichols who like have made such a visual mark in their films. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, and it can go both ways. There are certainly theater directors that go into film and seem to be unaware of why film is different from the stage.
Yeah, like pretty much anybody who's ever directed a Neil Simon play into a film, which I think there's only like 4. There's one guy, I forget who it was, who just directed like all of them. Like Gene Saks or Jerry Paris or one of these guys.
Okay. But yeah. So Cabaret is a real downer. The movie is not as much, even though it has the same themes.
Yeah, it's a sort of like dour film without being depressing.
Right.
Like you never get the sense, or you don't really get the sense like Brian and Sally seem like they'll be fine living their own lives elsewhere.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen in Master of Ceremonies, but he's like
he's like not really a character.
Yeah, he's not really a person at all.
Yeah, he's basically like a ventriloquist dummy.
Yeah,
like it's wild.
Yeah, or just like an imp.
Yeah, right.
Like,
he's like Puck,
like an ethereal spirit,
right? Yeah. Yeah, but like I think it's really interesting the way that the whole like abortion plot basically plays out in the movie as compared to in the show.
Oh yeah, I don't know how that works in the show.
In the show, like Cliff and Sally seem like, oh well, they're really gonna make this work, and then Sally is like, no. And she goes and she, again, like, has a fur coat, and she goes and she sells it to go off and get this abortion by herself, and she doesn't tell Cliff. But, yeah, she comes back, like, drunk from it, and, I don't know, makes some flippant remark to him, and he slaps her, and she gets real mad, and she's like, oh, like, I really wanted to live my life, and as a professor's wife, and this and that, and blah, 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 and I don't remember if he says something mean to her about how she's never going to be a movie star. I don't remember. Probably he does. But yeah, so like, and I don't know. And then it's like basically, and then she, he goes and he leaves, and says something real, I'm trying to remember it. But he says some real portentous shit. And his last lines in the play, it's like it's supposed to be like the narration that's the beginning of his book that he's writing. Okay. But I can't remember it. I had it memorized for the longest time because I'd seen the show so many times. But I can't remember it now. It's something like there was a cabaret and there was a master of ceremonies. Everybody was dancing and it was the end of the world or something like that. It's something like that. But it very much is like he rolls out of the play like, secure in his morals, and he's gonna leave all these people to their demise in Berlin. And then Sally comes out a hot mess and sings Cabaret. But, and all of this too, this is all this one interpretation, so it's possible that none of this plays the same way in any other production of the show. But this is the one thing I had to compare it to, and I had seen it a bunch of times before I saw the movie the first time, and I remember being unimpressed by the movie, being like, what's this? Because I was, like 17, and so of course I was a tiny edgelord. I was like, these people are they just decided that they're gonna be friends now, and they're gonna part ways happily and just live their lives? Like, what is this? Why isn't anybody sad? Be sad! Like, I don't know. So, yeah. But it's I that's one of the things I like about the movie now is like, as they like he doesn't feel like betrayed that this has happened to him, in the movie, and he's just like, yeah, okay, you're right, this was a bad idea. I'm gonna get out of here. Are you okay? She's like, super. And yeah. So you don't know what's gonna happen to them, but it seems like, if they both live through the war, they'll be fine. They might be friends again,
Yeah, you never know. Yeah, I feel like the movie, it tries very hard to stay away from, like, melodrama and, like, soap opera things. And that sort of thing. It tries to be a very realistic version of this story. Yeah.
It's like, there's a part where... I don't remember what Sally says something, at the beginning when they are first meeting. She's like, oh, does that shock you? And I feel like the movie is always doing stuff like this, but just being like, yep, haha, it's funny that she thinks this is shocking. This is just their lives. Mm-hmm. Whereas I feel like, weirdly, even because it was so much later, that 90s one was like, does this shock you? Be shocked. Like, I don't know. Weird. Weird flex.
Yeah. I feel like we've talked a lot today about the way, not just the stage musical Cabaret, but the way that the two of them are different and similar. Mm-hmm. But let's talk about the movie.
I know.
How do you feel about this movie as a movie? Can you even separate it from...
I think part of the problem is because I had seen the show so many times before I saw the movie, mm-hmm. they are just linked in my mind.
Okay.
I think that other than, like, little details and stuff, I think I like the movie more than I like the show.
Okay.
I feel more fond of it. And mm-hmm. that's surprising to me because... for years and years, I was just like, oh, it's not as good, though, as the show was. Mm-hmm. It's so of its time. And, like, I don't know what I thought. The 70s, I guess, but I don't know. But I like it. I like it more, and it's, I think, because of things like, it doesn't feel like it's judging all of its characters,
Yeah.
I think the only value judgment that the movie Cabaret makes is, hey, maybe you guys should be more concerned about these Nazis. Like,
it does seem very anti-Nazi,
yes.
which is good.
It is good.
It's refreshing.
Yeah. And I think it does get across that, that Sally she's a flipperty-gibbet.
Yeah.
And I think it does get across. It's interesting, too. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut myself off. But one of the things is, in the movie, Sally wants to be a movie star. She wants to be a singer, an actress. She wants to be in, like, big musicals. And mm-hmm. it doesn't seem insane in the movie because she's played by Liza Minnelli.
Yeah.
And so she can sing her ass off. Whereas, in the show, she tends to be cast by people who are not singers first and foremost,
okay.
So that it seems sillier that this is her one dream that she's pursuing.
Yeah.
She's going to be a famous singer and this and that. So I actually wonder if they're trying to make a comment that they're like, oh, she'll never be a movie star because she has a face like a chipmunk. Like, I don't know.
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
No.
Because I think she's great.
Yeah. Liza's great.
Yeah. Liza rules in this movie.
She's very good.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know if I've been talking down on this movie, but I like this movie a lot, but it was absolutely not at all what I was expecting.
Okay.
Based purely on my hazy memories of, like, commercials for the revival of Cabaret.
Right.
And, like, just having the show described to you, or, like, even the movie described to me, like, someone says, like, oh, it's a movie about, like, a bunch of people who hang out at this weird cabaret in Germany, in early Nazi Germany. I'm picturing a very different movie in my head. Like that mixed with the aesthetics of the revival. It's and like directed by Bob Fosse. I'm just like picturing this absolutely bizarre movie in my head, and it really isn't that. It's a pretty conventional film. And I think most of the time I was wrestling with my own expectations, but like taken as a whole, it's very entertaining. I like the whole like mood of the movie, the visual aspects of it, just the tone of it. I really enjoy. It's realistic, but sort of grimy, and there's like no crazy like visual flourishes, but you're always like right there with the characters. There's a lot of like close-ups, and there's
a lot of real close-ups in this movie. From what I remember.
I also just remember like the very first shot of the movie, like it's it just starts in like the weird warped glass, and it's like frozen on that for a while, and then it like starts to zoom out, and then you see just the master of ceremonies like pop in, and and you're like, all right, what's going on?
Yeah.
I think I wanted the movie to be a bit stranger, but like it is a bit hampered by its time. Just now I was wondering, like, how would Terry Gilliam make this movie? And it might not be better.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know that he would be interested.
Yeah, I don't think he would really care about the music or anything.
Well, not even that, but in that the movie is ultimately about human drama.
And he doesn't understand humanity.
He doesn't understand humans, no.
Except ultimately as tools of evil.
Exactly. Yeah. He would get a real handle on the dystopian part. Yeah. And that would be it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I also think I wanted a little bit more of the human drama. Like like I feel like as it is right now, it's sort of like dipping its toes into like many different waters, and I feel like I wanted it to like stick with something.
Right.
You know, it's a musical, but it's like not a musical.
Right.
But it still is, because there's like 10 songs in there.
Every time you say it, you add more songs.
I don't know. I think I said 8 most of the time. I was just looking at the list, and it seems like it might be 10 songs. I don't know.
That's fair.
But I mean, I don't necessarily want there to be more or less songs. I don't even know what I want from it. I feel like it's a lot of things that work pretty well, and not like one thing that works very well. Yeah. You know?
Okay. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. It's a very well made movie. This is the second Bob Fosse movie I've seen after we watched All That Jazz like earlier last year.
Right.
And that's insane.
Yeah,
that's
that movie's great.
Yeah,
that movie is wild.
Yeah,
this movie is not wild.
Yeah, and I think especially like after seeing All That Jazz, I was like more pumped for seeing Cabaret. And like this movie's gonna be insane. Yeah, and it's not really insane. No. But you can tell it's a Bob Fosse movie. You know. Right.
I wonder if that was part of it. I remember because I had seen it when I was younger and didn't like it that much. Mm-hmm. And so, but when we were going to be watching it again, I was so excited. And I think it was because of All That Jazz. Yeah. I think I was like, oh, I was just too young and dumb to appreciate Cabaret. Now I'm hype. I'm going to be into it. And like, it's still not as good as I wanted it to be. Yeah. I do like it a lot. I think it's a good movie, but it still wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Yeah. I can see why it won so many Oscars. This won, did we say 8? I think it was 8. You're very into the number 8 though, so we should double check it. It won 8 Academy Awards. There are 12 tracks on the original soundtrack of Cabaret, but at least one of these is an instrumental. I was going to say, yeah, I'm actually looking at it right now. I'm trying to count how many songs are in the movie. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 songs in the movie, not counting the outro, which is barely a song. Yeah. So 8 songs, 8 Oscars. Yeah, right. There you go. So there you go. 1 song per Oscar. And one more thing before we wrap up about the music, like I'm not a musical guy, and most of it is because like I don't tend to like the style of music that most musicals are.
and it's pretty much the same in this one as well. Unfortunately, there's a couple of catchy tunes.
Yeah, I don't think it's musically music in the same way.
No, it's definitely not like a big band style, but they're all like based in this sort of like light jazz.
I get, I can see that.
Yeah, but this does feel like it's a bit more inspired by like German music hall stuff, like Brecht. Just in the style of music. I don't even know dramatically what Brecht does. I know he's a weirdo.
Yeah, I know that you're supposed to never forget that you're watching a play.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
I like movies that are like, hey, this is a movie all the time.
So.
But do you like the songs in this movie?
I do like the songs in Cabaret. Yeah.
Yeah.
They get stuck in my head a lot.
Only one has been stuck in my head at all.
Is it Two Ladies?
Yeah, it's Two Ladies.
Yeah, Two Ladies is, I think, the catchiest one, and I think it's because of the diddly diddy.
Yeah.
Yep. But my favorite one is the first one, which I had forgotten was not the first one in the stage musical, but the first one that she sings, Mein Herr, which rules. The song rules. They had, I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it's one of the ones they wrote for the movie.
Okay.
She does sing it in the revival, but it's her second song when she gets fired or something like that. Okay. That's the song that she sings before she leaves the club, which this doesn't happen in the movie.
Yeah, I didn't know.
But, yeah, and it doesn't matter because I'm pretty sure she just gets her job back anyway.
Okay.
But yeah, she sings a real silly song as her first cabaret number in the musical. It's a real cheeky, like, it's called Don't Tell Mama.
Okay.
Which, you know, what the cabaret bar is named after.
Okay.
Yeah. And, and it's just like, it's, you know, just about, like, don't tell Mama what she does for a living, basically. It's one of those kinds of songs. But it's like, but Mein Herr rules, and it's about how you can't tie her down, and, like, and that's winds up being her through line in the movie anyway. And so I found it much more effective to be the way that you meet Sally Bowles, is that she's singing this song about how, like, she doesn't need one man because she's just going to go find another one as she conquers the world. So I don't know. And I think it's great. That one's my favorite.
Okay.
There is also there's a sad song in the movie, in the show that I like a lot, but I can genuinely never remember if it's even in the movie. So.
Yeah, I don't know. That's fine.
Yeah. But I like the music. Okay. But I've heard it since I was, 17 or whatever. So it's already just in my brain.
Yeah. I just don't get it.
That's fair. That's fair.
I don't get musical music.
That's fine.
Give me some electric guitars. That's what
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to make a vaporwave musical. I think
that would be rad as hell.
Yeah.
So this movie won 8 Academy Awards. It was nominated for 10.
Okay. So it missed Best Picture.
Yeah, and Best Adapted Screenplay, which both went to The Godfather.
Okay.
See, it won Best Sound, Best Art Direction. The movie does look very, very nice. Best Original Song Score or Adaptation Score.
Okay.
I think those used to be 2 separate categories, and then they combined them, which allowed Cabaret to win, because this is very much an adaptation of pre-existing music. Best Film Editing and Best Cinematography. By Jeffrey Unsworth, was a cinematographer who is one of those guys who, like, worked his way up in, like, the British film industry, and, like, all of these guys who, like, came up in the 40s and 50s are just, like, masters cinematographers who worked on amazing movies in the 70s. But if you, like, go through their whole filmography, like, all the 40s and 50s stuff they were working on, like, doctor comedies and like and like Carry On films and all stuff. But he shot 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh, okay.
And like I think that was
the
movie.
I don't love, but that's a movie that looks great.
Yeah, it looks
that's
beautiful.
That's my favorite thing about it.
And like that's the movie that really like catapulted him to like another level of work. This movie also won a Best Actor in a Supporting Role for Joel Grey, which I like Joel Grey in this movie, but I think that's really weird. That's really weird to me.
I agree with that strongly, especially having watched it again. He feels like he's barely in it.
Yeah, I mean, he sings all those songs, but he does not have a line.
I don't think he does. No.
Yeah, and so it's weird. Like it's making me like rethink like what a performance means. Like in a movie, I expect you to have like lines and like he have emotions and things.
He does act things without lines.
Yeah,
though,
he's a
too.
character and he's trying to, but I don't know. It's just weird.
Like I'm pretty sure, unless I'm remembering this incorrectly, I feel like at one point backstage he like has a conversation with Sally, but he doesn't actually say anything. Mm-hmm. Like, she says something to him, and he, like, kind of, like, gives her a look.
I remember he sticks his tongue out at her at one moment.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, that might be what I'm thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So.
But, yeah, that's about it. And I didn't know you could win an Oscar for that. It never even occurred to me.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I do think we were talking about this the other day. The other nominees, there were 3 nominees from The Godfather.
Oh, right.
In that category.
Yeah, we think they canceled each other out a little bit.
Robert Duvall, James Caan, and Al Pacino. I think we're all up for Best Supporting Actor. Yeah, it's insane. And so yeah, they all canceled out each other, and Joel Grey won, which good for him.
Yeah. And I did misspeak. He does have lines. It's just that they're all on stage.
Like but they're like in a song. Like he speaks during a song.
During a number, not necessarily like the song. Like he introduces the whole setting. That's true. You know, all of that stuff. You know, talks about I don't know what they're doing. Like all this stuff. You know, but yeah, most of his lines are they are all during the musical numbers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, even if they're not part of the song itself. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Liza Minnelli won Best Actress.
Good for her.
Yeah, she's very good. I feel sometimes like when she has to get like really emotional, it like doesn't quite work. Mm-hmm. But she's very good. She's great. She certainly sings those songs. She sings the hell out of those songs.
Yeah. And like that's the thing too is she sings those songs so hard, but like you know how sometimes people sing songs really hard but they don't act them. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's one of the reasons that it works in this movie that Sally is a more optimistic character is because she sells that part of it. Like, she's acting it, but it's that part. I feel like if they had taken a different take on the character altogether, I don't know if she would have been able to, like, you know, sing Cabaret like she was having a nervous breakdown. You know, I don't know if she would have been able to do that direction necessarily. But we don't know because they didn't do that.
Yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm. And Bob Fosse won Best Director at the Oscars for only his second film, which is pretty great. Beat out Francis Ford Coppola, although they were both pretty much like unknown people at that point.
Okay.
I think Coppola had made more movies, but no one really cared about any of them besides The Godfather. And it's a well directed movie. You could tell like he just has such a style. You can tell how precise he was about everything. Mm-hmm. You know, by all accounts, he was very precise about like people's movements. Like even in the non-dancing scenes, you know, he'd be like, you know, turn 5 degrees this way, lift your arm up here. But it works. You could tell he's fascinated by like just the human body.
Yeah. I think that's
There's a lot of like, you know, faces in profile and just like watching people like act with their faces and that sort of thing. And yeah, it was very good. As we said, lost out to The Godfather and Best Picture and Best Adapted Screenplay.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I feel like that's fair. I mean, I don't know. We'll talk about the Best Picture when we get there, but I do think that
from everything
the screenplay of this movie, it's like it's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah.
And from everything I know, you know, of the book, The Godfather, I'm sure that the screenplay is much better than the book is.
Wow.
You know, it certainly seems like they distilled all the interesting parts, but then again, maybe not. I don't know. Yeah. It's a long book. Very long book.
Not really.
No? Isn't it like 500 pages long?
No, I think it's even less than that. I don't know. Yeah, it's a real just like it's real like airport like gritty gross paperback type thing.
You've been lying to me about The Godfather.
I mean, as far as I know. I started to read it, and then I lost my copy of the book, and
and you were like, I'm fine with this.
Yeah, well, I bought a copy later, but I never tried to read it again.
Okay. Anyway, do we have anything else to say about Cabaret? I got you that time.
Yeah, I did. No, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely it's a good nominee for Best Picture.
Yep. So the one thing that I did want to say about Fritz and Natalia, we mentioned just in passing, they just have a B plot. He's like Brian's friend who is taking English lessons from him. And Natalia also is taking English lessons, but she is an heiress to a grocer and stuff like that. But she's Jewish, and he's not. Oh no! And so she won't date him. But turns out he secretly is Jewish, and like didn't tell anybody so that he could like succeed in life. But he doesn't like have a job. I don't know. No, he's like an import exporter or something.
Yeah,
right?
something like that.
Vague.
Yeah, I mean, like I thought that was gonna amount to more because like the way he talks about his business early on, it sounds like he's
like he does crime.
He's up to some shady business, but like not really.
Yeah, it never comes back.
Yeah,
so yeah, but that's the whole thing with the both of them is like they give like a good amount of time to their plot line, and then like finally, you know. Fritz tells her that he's Jewish, and so they get married, and then they disappear from the movie entirely.
Yeah, you see their wedding, and then that's it.
That's it. You never see them again. You never hear about them again.
I mean, that is towards the end of the movie,
it is, but not like as close to the end of the movie as I thought it would be. Like I thought I would find out what became of them. Do they flee? Are they stuck? Like what's happening? She has money. I feel like they should be able to leave, but like maybe they don't think that they, and you know, like none of this ever comes up.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And that's what I had to say about them is that I don't understand the point of it other than just like,
yeah,
you know,
I wanted there, like
it gives
if
this other perspective, I guess, but then doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, like this is one of the things that I guess I wanted more. Like it seems like there's like, you know, two parallel relationships, you know, but one is far less developed than the other.
Right.
And if this is like an ensemble thing where there's multiple storylines, there should be more characters, more storyline.
Yeah.
As it is, it's a story about Brian and Sally, and then for some reason there's other people in the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, thank you everybody for listening. I hope you're all still there after our extended hiatus.
I know we're gonna put up our schedule on Twitter and try to stick to it. I think
we'll stick to it from now on. I think we'll have some time.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. It might be tough for us to record episodes in the awful heat of the summertime.
Yeah, that is a problem that we ran into
because you know, to record an episode in your house, you gotta turn off the air conditioning, the fan, anything that would make noise in the background, and it can get pretty hot. I'm hot right now.
Yeah, me too.
It's a pretty nice day out, and I'm really hot.
Exactly, same.
So we'll see. We'll see how many episodes we get done this summer. If not, we'll see you in September. I don't know.
Yeah, right when we go on vacation.
Yeah,
that'll be exactly the time.
But next, let's see. Follow us on Twitter at NominEsPod. Follow us on Instagram.
Yeah, I guess I've used it like twice. Maybe I'll post some pretty things from Cabaret.
Yeah. Leave a review on iTunes. If somebody leaves a review, I promise that we'll put out episodes more regularly.
That's a bold statement because I have no idea if anybody has ever done it. I don't know how to find it.
No, I don't think they have. I think we would you get like a digest of
nice.
like an email from Apple. I don't know.
Okay.
But you can email us at nomineespod@gmail.com. Leave us a review. Send us a tweet, something. Like, I can see how many people download the episodes, but like when I get no feedback whatsoever, I'm like, oh, cool, nobody's listening. It doesn't matter if I release an episode this month.
Yep, I have gotten in-person feedback from 2 people.
Yeah.
And online feedback from 3 people.
Yeah.
So that was nice. One only in the form of likes, but that's okay.
That's fine. Let us know you're out there.
I still appreciate you very much.
Yeah. And that's the whole outro, right? I said everything?
I think so. Well, we didn't mention the Patreon, but we don't have anything on it yet.
Yeah, that's still in flux. We'll
it is
that
there.
Yeah.
If you want to sign up, we'll get a notification about it, and then we'll actually be forced to put content on it.
Yeah, the tantalizing promise of bonus content awaits.
Yep.
Next week, the next episode, which should be in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks.
Is Deliverance.
Yeah.
That's going to be wild, I think.
Yeah, I'm not. It's the one I'm not hype about.
Yeah.
So, thank you all for listening.
Yeah, we did all
that.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I feel like we came up with a sign off a couple of weeks ago and then promptly forgot it.
Yeah, I don't know. Later.
Later.